you guys are watching this as a video on demand, thank you guys very much for the support. I really appreciate it. I'm going to do the same thing that I always do and tell you, if you are finding this stream and this community through these training videos, hit the Discord, guys. Join us there. You can always ask questions. We have a Darkest Dungeon channel. If you're just trying to make your way through this game, I am more than happy to answer any of your guys' questions, and we have a lot of really knowledgeable people. Pointless Knowledge is definitely one of them. There are a lot of very, very knowledgeable people in our community who would be more than happy to field your questions if I'm not around to do it. You guys can hit me on Twitter, you can hit me on fucking Instagram, you can hit me wherever the hell you want. Just ask away, because I'm here to help people out. This game is extremely difficult. We all know that, guys. Getting through even your first run of this game on the easiest difficulty can be a huge pain in the ass. So just like we did when we first started this video, we'll be starting in a state without the Crimson Court, because again, when you're getting into this game for the first time, if you have all of the downloadable content, do not play with the courtyard enabled. You can play with the flagellant enabled, you can play with the districts enabled, the shield breaker, the color of madness. Just do not open up the courtyard. You will absolutely positively regret that decision, and you will be sitting there saying, Jesus Christ, that dumb old bastard was absolutely correct. I should have never stepped foot in this fucking place, because it is a huge pain in my ass. Opening up the, yeah, I know, right, Alara? Express elevator to hell. You will absolutely hate your life if you open up the courtyard, guys. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this fucking training video so we can get some learning done, some learning. We're gonna start building towards what we call the starting bank strat, so you can start getting your economy in line. And I'm going to go over a lot of other information in terms of like what quirks are good, what are bad, how to prioritize enemies, how to abuse light to get better treasure, and all kinds of stuff like that. So I'll try to hit all the points that we originally covered in the beginning video, guys, and I'm really hoping to get to them. If you guys feel like I'm forgetting something, by all means, let me know, okay? Because I want to make sure that we cover everything, even if it's going to be repeated in a future video. Obviously, this is going to be the most important one from a strictly knowing the mechanical standpoint of the game, right? Kick back, relax, and enjoy, everybody, and thanks again for being here. Questions are always welcome. Even though this is a training video, guys, I'm still going to interact with you guys, and I want to make sure everybody's getting what they fucking want out of this bad boy. And remember, if you're watching this one, watch the whole series, or as much or as little of it as you want. There's a lot of good information that takes you all the way through to the end of the game. You can actually follow this series and get a really good idea of how to approach it and probably beat it. I've had a few people tell me in the Discord already that they've actually been able to beat the first time, or they can beat the game for the first time ever. Words, again, speech not my strong suit. Beat the game for the first time ever by going through this series. So that's really fucking cool, and I'm glad that people are able to actually do that with this fucking hulking beast of a game, right? So here we go, guys. Here we go. So I'm going to show everybody really quick, and this is going to be something, since I did set this up before. When I'm talking about DLC, guys, this is what you want. You want Districts, Flagellant, Shield Breaker, Color of Madness. You do not want the Crimson Court. When you buy the Crimson Court DLC, you actually get the courtyard itself, the Flagellant, and the Districts all in one DLC, right? You do not want this enabled in your first playthrough. You will absolutely regret it. And the reason we're not using the Musketeer, guys, is because the Musketeer and the Arbalist are literally the same class, and we don't want to see our trinket pool get diluted, right? There are class-specific trinkets, and unfortunately, they have them replicated for each individual class that are, like I said, they're literally the same thing, guys. So instead of having a diluted trinket pool, we decided to go ahead and just eliminate the Musketeer, even though I would love to enable this character over the Arbalist, because this just looks better aesthetically. This is how we're going to approach it. So here we go, guys, onto the fucking old road. We'll watch the intro so everyone has something cool to watch while we get ready, and then we're gonna get on with our lives. Me too, Ashy, by the way. Me too.
You will arrive along the old road.
The beginning is always ultra loud, GM, and I don't know why.
It winds with a troubling serpent-like suggestion through the corrupted countryside.
It should get a little bit better right now.
Leading only, I fear, to ever more tenebrous places.
I really don't understand it either. It's kind of crazy.
In the ancient pitted cobbles.
And when I say it's kind of crazy, I mean it's what the fuck is behind me here.
On its writhing path, you will face viciousness.
Is that? Oh, it's the.
And perhaps other damnably transcendent.
I thought the cursor was something on my green screen, guys. If y'all want to know how dumb this old motherfucker is, y'all just saw it right there in one compact little action. Pretty good shit, right? Scion Gen, what's up, man? Good to see you.
The old road will take you to hell.
Nicola, good to see you as well.
We will find our redemption.
Ruin has come to our family, guys. Who would have thought, right? Okay, guys, so here we go. The old road, right? You start out with Reynold and Dismas. Those are your two starting characters. You'll obviously get more after your first week, and we're going to go over exactly what to do after we get through the old road, right? So, guys, you start out with 2 food. That's plenty. There's going to be 2 combats through the entire thing. This is just an introduction, right? It's all about tutorial, kind of learning how the game works. I'm going to try to walk everybody through exactly what we're doing here as well. So you'll fight 1 brigand right off the bat. Pretty easy fight, but there's definitely one thing that you're going to want to do here as you're progressing through the game. When you get to this room, there's going to be 2 more people, right? There's going to be another fight that you got to take care of. One of your characters has a really cool quirk called Warrior of Light. That would be Reynold. So he gets extra damage as long as your light meter up here is over 75, which is how we're going to be playing this entire tutorial, right? When you get in here, you want to make sure in this first fight, in your first action, you actually use Bulwark of Faith. The reason you want to do this, guys, is because that means when you hit this last room, you're actually going to have over 75 light, and Reynold does more damage against the enemies. So there's a very good reason for us to actually be doing that right off the bat, not just killing him like we probably could have. So let's keep on moving. Like I said, we're going to have plenty of light. In darkest and Stygian, or darkest and radiant difficulty, you can actually touch this tent, okay, guys? You could actually get provisions out of it. We're going to touch it. Probably shouldn't, but we're going to. 2 things could have happened. What just happened could get gold, or we could have actually stressed one of our characters out. So what you're going to want to do there is kind of decide whether or not you want to deal with the stress right away. And remember again, guys, one of the things that we preach through this entire series is that stress is the ultimate killer in this game. Right? Stress is the ultimate killer. If you can keep stress down, you benefit immensely by not having a shit ton of it stacked on your characters. So we're going to tracking shot. What we're going to try and do is bleed this guy out after this round, okay? We'll even try to stun him once with Reynold. I think that we can actually get a stun in here. We're going to see what happens, but we're going to try it. Ah, it's working out already. It's working out already. Now, another thing that you guys are going to see as you watch this is that we're going to kill our torchlight before we deal the final killing blow, right? We've talked about that. We talk about that. We talk about that through this entire training series. And the reason it's so important is when you actually generate a loot table, anytime you're done with either a fight or when you open up a curio, like this treasure or this box back here for treasure, you actually have a better chance at better loot if you do it that way. So if we can, when we finally make that killing blow, we're going to make sure that we kill the light before we do it. Because again, we want to make sure that we can get hopefully better treasure. It's not guaranteed, but it could actually happen, right? We're also going to have to get this corpse out of the way. Would have much rather seen this thing bleed out because that would have moved him up. That's actually another strategy you want to consider as you're playing the game, guys. Be aware of corpses, right? Corpses get in the way. They make it so that you can't reach other enemies. But if something bleeds out or blights out, if you have that ability, the blight will actually remove the corpse immediately. It won't be left back. So that's always very, very important in the long run. So this is where we're probably going to kill the light, right? He's stunned. There's a really good chance Dismas is going to hit and kill here, right? Because you can see down in the tooltip, we're doing 5 to 10 damage. He only has 3 left. So we could risk it, and we could swing and hope if we swing and hit while the light's still high, we have enough time to get up here and kill the torch. But instead of doing that, we're just going to kill it right away. If you hold shift control on a PC, if you're playing this on Steam, guys, that's how you can actually eliminate your torch all the way down to 0. So when you eliminate it down to 0, this is where you get the better loot after you deal a killing blow. Yes, they do, GM David Strong. So GM David Strong in the chat is saying, so if we have a damage over time, which is the blight or bleed, and something dies from it, the corpse doesn't pop up. And I said, yes, absolutely, that's what happens. And that's why it's so important in the future of the playthrough, guys. Had we gotten a key out of that fight, guys, we could have actually opened it with the key and got better treasure. Unfortunately, here we are. But back to what GM was saying. Like right now, the blight, like, is on Dismas here. If that was on one of the enemies and you let them expire from that damage, they will not leave a corpse. As you go through the game, you kind of decide when and where you want to let something do that, so that you basically don't have to worry about getting to the character behind them. If you have a bunch of characters that can only hit the first couple positions, and you have no way to hit that person back there, it's usually better to let that enemy expire from that damage over time ability so that you can actually get to them on your next round and you don't have to waste attacks on getting a corpse out of the way. All right, guys, back to the Hamlet, and this is where a lot of the learning begins. So we didn't really luck out too much on treasure there, guys. But the bright side is we got through it. Let's just hope that we don't have to worry about anything really nasty. Oh, God. That's 2 forced interaction quirks on Reynald now. Yay! I love it. I'm so excited, guys. Can you hear it in my voice? So as you come out of a run, guys, there's always a chance, and we're going to go over this now really quick. There's always a chance that you get a positive quirk or a negative quirk, and all of that is stress based, which is why we were talking about stress being so important. If you get out with less stress than more, you always have a better shot at getting a positive quirk and less of a chance of getting a negative one. So I can't remember the algorithm right offhand, guys, but every point of stress is multiplied by a number. It's subtracted from a baseline percentage, and that decides whether or not you get a positive quirk, and the inverse is for a negative quirk. So the more stress you have, they take that, multiply that number, and then add it to that baseline percentage, and that decides whether or not you get a negative quirk. So that's also another reason you always want to keep somebody's stress low. It just helps you in so many different ways, guys. Barbarian's asking how you decrease the torchlight. When we get back into the next dungeon, guys, I will go over the torch, and you actually have a tooltip up there. If you're playing on PC, it'll tell you exactly how it is that you can increase it or decrease it. Yeah, Gareth Hubble's asking if all forced interaction quirks pretty much end with mania, and that's pretty much the case. There are a couple different ones that don't. Compulsive is a forced interaction quirk, right? We're going to go ahead and go over these really fast, guys, because it's something that we will want to talk about eventually. Kleptomaniac and Compulsive are also forced interaction quirks, and both of them are probably the worst ones in the game because they have a very good chance of having you interact with almost any curio. Now, all of the different manias usually only apply to certain curios because different curios have different classifications, as it were. Some are considered holy, some of them are considered like treasure, some of them are considered eldritch. So each one of them actually have a classification. Compulsive and Kleptomaniac kind of both like go over all of those, and they basically say we're going to pretty much interact with anything that we fucking want to. And that's clearly something you don't want, because when you're in this game, guys, you don't want your characters just going up and randomly poking at stuff, because that could actually eliminate you getting good treasure from it, right? If there's a herb that you can use on a alchemist table to get a good result, to get treasure, your character could just go up and hit it, and then that could actually roll into a negative result, so they could get a disease, or they could be bled, or all kinds of shit. You always want to make sure that you get rid of these forced interaction quirks if you can, as early as possible. Now, unfortunately, this early in the game, the sanitarium isn't open. Sanitarium is where you take care of these things. It obviously costs money, and that's money we're willing to pay, because obviously a small investment in removing something that's going to hurt your economy now will save you money later, correct? So you got to kind of look at it as a very real world application of spend money to make money, right, guys? So when you start, you have the Nomad Wagon open, where you can buy trinkets, right? Not something we're really worried about. The graveyard's open, just in case somebody dies, right? Because the graveyard is where they need to go. Ancestors' memoirs are just kind of all the story, right, guys? And then one of the more important things that's open is the stagecoach. So this is always set, guys. No matter how many times you play the game, there will always be a Plague Doctor, and there will always be a Vestal, so that you can go on the next quest with this same old setup. What isn't the same, everybody, is the skills that come with these characters. This is actually a pretty damn good Plague Doctor that came with Plague Grenade, Blinding Gas, Incision, and Battlefield Medicine. So you have a heal, a stun, a bleed, and a blight all on one character. This is literally best case scenario for the Plague Doctor. The other cool thing about this Plague Doctor is that it came with Slugger. So the Incision is actually going to do a pretty fair amount of damage when it hits. Fairweather Fighter is also not terrible. Now, the bad thing is maybe the scattering for the minus damage to range skills. But the only range skills that the Plague Doctor has, guys, is Noxious Blast and Plague Grenade. The majority of the damage that comes out of those skills is from the blight that you put on the enemy anyway. So scattering isn't really that bad. Off guard kind of sucks because of the minus to speed. Generally speaking, guys, the Plague Doctor is all about crowd control. You really, really want to abuse the stun on a Plague Doctor. And being able to do that means that you want to be able to go first, right? You want to make sure that their high stress or high damage enemies can't actually act the first round. So off guard actually is relatively bad on this particular Plague Doctor, but it still comes loaded with a lot of really, really good stuff early on. I spy a stabby stab doctor. Yeah, this would definitely be a good stab doctor. Like, they call them stab doctors because there are folks out there who really, really love to use incision on a plague doctor, and with this one coming with slugger, it's not bad. So now we're just hoping we see a lot of the same stuff on our Vestal, right, guys? Nocturnal, -2 speed if torches above 75 actually isn't bad. Commonly, you want a Vestal to go a little bit later in the round anyway, because that way you can decide whether or not you want to do something offensive, or you know exactly who it is in your lineup who you need to heal if they're taking a lot of damage. So if all the enemies go, and then your Vestal goes after them, you're going to know exactly who needs the healing and who doesn't. So that's why it's kind of okay to have something with minus speed on a Vestal, guys. Fated is a completely junk quirk. Don't ever worry about it, guys. Don't ever think it's good. It literally only applies to a character missing. It doesn't actually apply to dodge or anything like that. If an enemy dodges, Fated will not help you. So what we missed at the beginning, guys, was we forgot to increase our stagecoach network. And this is something you should have immediately fucking done after the old road. Use the heirlooms that you have down here, these things down here, the busts, the portraits, the deeds, and the crest. These are all what you use to upgrade all your different buildings to make them more effective or more useful. What we should have done was done this twice.
Ambition is stirring in distant cities.
And the reason
use this.
you want to do this twice immediately, guys, is because you would like to see 4 new recruits every week. And the reason you want 4 new recruits every week at the beginning of the game is because, let's say something would have gone horribly wrong in that quest, at least this way, we would have had 4 replacements, right? When we go out, this is going to be our first quest, and again, this quest is always set. No matter how many times you go into this quest, no matter how many times you play this game, this quest is always the same. There are 2 different ways you usually want to go in here, guys. It's either set up like that or that, right? It just depends on what skills your characters have. So the Vestal has enough skills to make her useful in position 4, and position 3 makes a lot more sense for the Plague Doctor, guys, because the Plague Doctor can literally use all of her abilities in position 3, so it just makes more sense for us to put her here as opposed to in the rear. But if this Plague Doctor came with, let's say, Noxious Blast and, let's say, Disorienting and Blinding in Battlefield, it would be okay to put her back here because she doesn't have the incision skill. Now, it could make more sense for us to put the Vestal here if, for example, she has Illumination open, right? Like Illumination, she can use in 1, 2, and 3. So we could actually use that skill by being like having her where she's at right now. Outside of that, I think that's the only one. Yeah, you can't use Mace Bash out of position 3 either. So yeah, that would be really the only instance you might want to swap those 2 around, guys, just so you can actually use the maximum amount of skills, right? Unfortunately, early on in the game, guys, you can't actually open up new skills. You got to get through, I believe, week 3 before you can actually start up or opening up new skills for people, and that becomes very important later on. What dictates that an enemy can go twice in 1 round? Usually, okay, that's actually something we'll get to here in a second, Moiku. That's a good question. There's only a few enemies that can go twice in a round, and that's shown by how many action points they have, and we'll do that as soon as we get into the main game, but good question, Moiku. What does a flashing quirk mean? Flashing quirks, okay, this is very good actually, and this is a good time to do it. When we actually came out of that last dungeon and we clicked on Reynold, you would have actually seen this quirk flashing, Oblutomania, right? What that means is that they just picked that skill up, or they just got that quirk in the previous dungeon. We would have seen the same thing on Dismas with Skilled Gambler. So when you come out of a dungeon, if you ever click on a character that you have, what you're going to see is a flashing quirk. Now, when they first come out of the stagecoach, all of these will be flashing once you put them in your character roster, right? Because they did just pick them up because they're just fresh into the game. But if you see it as you're going through your playthrough, it's because that character picked up that positive or negative quirk as you were coming out of that quest. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to go into the ruins. Why is my mouse acting so weird right now, guys? Somebody help. There we go. Now we're good. So first quest of the ruins, guys, always the same thing. We're going to get in here. We're going to provision up. We're going to actually over prepare a little bit. Okay, guys? And the reason we're going to over prepare a little bit is because in this particular quest, we have Reynold, who, again, we were talking about before, has a lot of those forced interaction quirks. You can pick up items to get better treasure in this particular dungeon, guys, because, again, even the treasure in the hallways is set. The only treasure that isn't set is the stuff that you're going to find in the rooms. you're always going to get at least a key out of one of them. You're always going to get at least a shovel out of another. And you're always at least going to get some holy water out of another to get a good interaction with one of the curios in the rooms. Now, unfortunately, Reynold can steal that shit. And if Reynold steals that shit, then you don't have the opportunity to get good treasure. So this is going to be one of those cases where we spend money to make money. We're actually going to buy 2 keys because there are 2 treasure chests in this run. We already have the holy water we might need, right? That comes because there are some classes that come with provisions as you go out. A Vestal will come with holy water. Plague Doctor will come with anti-venom. I can't remember which class comes with herbs. A Grave Robber will come with a shovel. So each one of the classes, or some of the classes rather, will actually come with a provision, but not all of them do. Like the Crusader doesn't come with anything. The Highwayman doesn't come with anything, and there's a few other ones. Yeah, and that's the other important thing as well, guys. Mixie Rose says he only steals from hallway curios. So anybody who has a forced interaction quirk, guys, if you actually get or could get treasure in one of the rooms that you get into, that character won't steal from those curios. It's only the ones that you pass by as you're walking down hallways. And we're going to take extra torches, right? So we're taking 14 torches. And the reason we're taking 14, guys, is because as we talked about on the old road, we're going to want to kill Torchlight at certain points in time in the run to make sure that we get better treasure. It just makes good sense. There's going to be 3 different spots actually in this run where we're going to kill the Torchlight so that we can hopefully get better treasure. Houndmasters come with biscuits. Yeah, that's absolutely true. The biscuit is a buff for your dog, which is good. We don't really need anything else. This is literally all we need for this particular run, guys. How much buff for the dog? Han Laverdammer is asking how much of a buff the dog gets from the dog biscuits. If I recall correctly, guys, it's plus 15% damage and it's plus 10 or plus 20 accuracy. I can't remember right offhand. But the cool thing is when you give a dog a biscuit, guys, it'll actually, if you look at the little buff icon, it'll actually show you what was given by it. And I believe it lasts 3 rounds. Yeah, the dog biscuit is actually very underrated, Han Laver. There's a lot of people who will just immediately throw the dog biscuit, and I'm like, you shouldn't do that because there are definitely moments in time where you want it. All right, and like I said, guys, this map will look the same every fucking time you come in here. And every fucking curio that we see in the hallways or in the rooms is going to be the same. The only thing that might be a little bit different is the treasure. Actually, it could be a lot different. We could find a lot of good shit. We couldn't find a goddamn thing in here, guys.
Paid for in blood.
So here we go, boys. Okay, Blaze, I got you. This is going to be actually one of the times, guys, where we're going to go ahead and kill the Torchlight as soon as we're getting ready to kill the final character. And the reason is because we're getting 2 different treasure rolls here, right, guys? If we kill the light before we kill these guys, we're going to get a treasure roll from them, and then we're also getting a treasure roll with no light from the chest, right? So it just makes a lot of sense for us. I was not expecting that. I totally wasn't expecting the fucking Plague Doctor to kill him in one shot. I should have been paying attention. And the reason I wasn't expecting it is because the Plague Doctor has fucking... he has Slugger. And that's exactly why. Like, usually the Plague Doctor does not do that much damage. That's very, very high low-level damage for the Plague Doctor. So again, ideally, we would have actually killed the Torch, and we would have had a much better treasure roll, kind of like we just got there, right? Instead, the old man done fucked up everybody. So, since we already know a very since we already have a very comprehensive knowledge of this particular map, guys, we know for a fact where everything is. Like, there's going to be a box here. There's going to be a sack over here. There's a treasure chest here. There's a curio that can give you a heal and a stress heal here. There's actually a trap in each one of these different hallways here. There's another backpack here. There's going to be nothing in this room or this room. We know that there's a blockage over here, and we know that there's another fight with a treasure chest in here. This fight with this treasure chest and this fight with this treasure chest are going to be the other 2 places we kill the Torch. Now, one other bit of information that's very important in this hallway is that you're clear until this tile that we're currently in. The next tile before this room is actually going to have a fight. The reason we didn't reignite the Torch, guys, is because we just know we can conserve light that way. As you progress through a playthrough of Darkest Dungeon and you're going down these hallways, your light meter goes down. The light meter gives you different bonuses, right? So at Radiant Light, so this little pip right here and above, we get extra dodge, extra scouting, and extra chance to get a monster surprise, right? So we're going to be playing the majority of the game in that area. That's the way the game is kind of meant to be played, if you can possibly swing it at full light. Every time we get by one of these pips, we start losing some bonuses and the enemies start gaining some. But The trade-off with that is, as we've stated before, if you're all the way down to 0 light, you get much better treasure. You also have a better chance to crit enemies, but the enemies get a bunch of bonuses as well. They deal extra stress, they have extra accuracy, they have extra crit. So playing the entire game torchless, which is what some crazy fucking people do, is definitely worth it in some ways, but it also adds a lot of challenge. So again, we knew that this fight was coming, right? Because we have a very intimate knowledge with this, like this entire dungeon. So let's talk about, really quick, guys, let's talk about enemy targeting priority, okay? So generally in Darkest Dungeon, the enemies that are in position 3 and 4 are going to be the enemies you kind of want to target first in almost any given combat. And the reason, guys, is because the enemies in position 3 and 4, if they're damage dealers, they always have really high crit. If characters get crit, they get blasted for a bunch of health loss, and they also take a bunch of stress damage as a result. The other reason that you want to target them is because if they don't have a high crit, like attack, what they do have is a stress attack, and we've already talked about stress and how important it is to keep it under control. So we're going to target her. And again, the reason we're targeting her, guys, is because if we can kill her before she gets an attack, we don't have to worry about our stress levels going up. These two are going to be the next priority. Probably the Bone Soldier over the Bone Rabble, because the Bone Soldier has a bit more crit than him, but she is definitely top priority. And like I said, more often than not, the characters or the enemies that are in position 3 or position 4, when you're fighting enemies, need to be your top priority, which is why getting characters that can hit as many positions as possible is a very beneficial thing in this game. Or, in the case of the Plague Doctor, if they can go early enough, you can at least stun them, if nothing else, so that they don't have an opportunity, and you can start clearing out these front ranks quick and get them moved up so you have access to them. But, again, you still want to eliminate them very quickly. So we're going to go ahead and Plague Grenade, because we know if she gets blighted, she's dead, right? She has 3 HP left. You can see it on the tooltip, 3 HP. She's taking 4 damage right now, guys. We don't even have to worry about her. So both the Vestal and the Crusader can start going off on these guys because she is literally a non-threat anymore. If we could kill her, we might do it because there's always a 50-50 chance on any kill that your character will get a stress heal. And that is obviously very powerful, right? Because we've already talked about it. Keeping stress down is huge. So the Vestal right now, guys, has 23 stress. She can do 2 to 5 damage with her Judgment, right? So we have a 50-50 shot. Actually, check that. We have a 75% chance to actually kill the Bone Soldier if we hit it. If she hits and kills it, she does have a chance to de-stress a little bit, and that's very powerful. That's another mechanic that you want to keep in mind as you play through this entire game, guys. If you can actually get a kill and get a stress heal for your trouble, that's very good, since you always want to keep it under control. Maybe we get it.
Falls, a faint hope blossoms.
There it was, baby. We got him. Also in chat, for those of you guys who are watching this, GM David Strong just asked a very important question as well. He asked if there are any characters in the game that can actually pull characters in those back 2 rows up to the front so that your people up front have access to them. And there are a lot of characters who can actually do that. The Bounty Hunter can do it. The Occultist can do it. Even the Plague Doctor can do it if the Plague Doctor has Disorienting Blast, because you can see in the tooltip it says Shuffle Single and Stun. So it's a single target attack. But what you can actually do is hit that enemy that you can see right there in the tooltip, guys. Every one of these skills has this, like where the character in question can use that skill, shown on the left in the yellow, right? So the Plague Doctor in position 4, 3, or 2 can use this skill, and then they can hit position 2, 3, or 4 of the enemy team, right? So if we target that person in position 4, there is a chance that with it, we could actually shuffle that character up to the front, and our Highwayman and or our Crusader would actually have a chance to attack them. So here's the other question. Do we want to try and kill him with the Highwayman? Not really. The Highwayman is really low on stress at 3 out of 200 right now. If we can get the stress heal on somebody else, that would be great. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and have the Plague Doctor maybe kill it. Instead, the Plague Doctor whiffed. If Reynald gets it, that's fine too, since Reynald is at 13 out of 100, right?
Gone, fiend.
Unside! Welcome back, man. And not a bad haul either, guys. A portrait and a... I forgot to do something. That's okay. I forgot to do something before we came in here. It's not too late to address it, but it's definitely something that you want to do at the beginning, and now I feel terrible for it, guys. I got distracted. Before we came in here, we actually should have upgraded our stagecoach twice to get 4 characters every week, and I forgot to do that. And now I feel like a jackass, and I feel like we should probably go back and address that in some shape, way, or form. Now, the other thing to get back on track, guys, as we're going through here, we need to make sure that we hit each one of these if Reynald doesn't actually pick them himself with his kleptomaniac. That way we know we can get the treasure out of it. No, we just lost the first one, Reborn. So this is another one of those cases, guys, where we want to make sure that we can get to the cultist acolyte as quickly as possible. We need to make sure that she dies, and this is why. Like, thankfully, she didn't use her stress attack, guys, so that's pretty goddamn good for us. We are going to try and stun her, because it's unlikely right now that we can do enough damage to kill her. Maybe, if we get lucky, maybe we can get away with it, guys. So we have Reynald hit him because we knew that we could probably one-shot him, and I'm not doing a very good job of explaining that, by the way. No, that's too bad. See, this is why shuffling is bad for your team as well. The ability we would have liked to have used with the Plague Doctor would have been Plague Grenade right there. If the Plague Grenade would have hit her, it may have actually put her on a death possibility, right? Because of the Blight. Unfortunately, since Dismas got moved all the way back, we no longer had access to that skill. So, unfortunately, we had to go after him. But what we will do is still try to attack her with Dismas. We eliminated her, we're okay.
Give them no quarter.
And now we go after him. But this is another one of those cases, guys, where we want to make sure the light's killed before we kill him. Good thing we did it too. Not only do we get the kill, we get the crit. So another fun fact, guys, is we got the 3, or actually, excuse me, if you crit, I believe you get 3 stress heal, and if you get the kill, you get another 3. So that's why we actually healed for 6 there. So yeah, I made a huge mistake, guys, by not upgrading our stagecoach before we came in here, and that's a huge bummer. And that's something that it doesn't really serve us now, and I might have to go back and maybe throw a small edit into the video later on, but I did actually overlook that, and that's a really bad thing. So this is why we brought the keys, right, guys? We wanted to at least bring 2, even though we picked up 1 in that backpack, right? We weren't guaranteed that because we knew Reynald could have stolen it. So this is exactly why we brought 2. And make sure that a lot of the curios in this game all have these interactions, guys, right? Like, you want to make sure that you use an item to get a better treasure result. So we could have actually opened that treasure chest without using a key, but we wouldn't have gotten nearly the amount of loot we've got out of it just by having that key and being able to do it that way. Gareth Hubble is asking if there is a reason I don't always kill the light before I deal the final blow. A couple reasons that we wouldn't do it in some situations, guys. We might not have enough torches to get back up to full light to make sure that we're okay as we progress through the dungeon. We might be okay on treasure, especially if we're doing the bank strat, right? If we're at the bank strat and we're really far in the run and money is no longer an issue, there's really no reason for us to always kill the torch to get better loot, right, guys? So we just kind of keep progressing that way.
Now it must be carried home.
Also, this is where we have to reignite a torch. We got a fight coming up, and we know that. Man, am I really disappointed in myself for not upgrading the stagecoach before we came in here. I am a moron. I am a bad teacher, guys. I am a bad teacher. I am a horrible teacher. So another thing, and this is something we haven't really illustrated yet, guys, is be aware of all the information the game gives you, okay? You'll have a very intimate knowledge of this the more you play the game. But if you look at Reynald, you can see all the information you're getting with different skills if you select them. Like over here, you can see I'm hitting the requisite numbers. Like there's a what is that called? Smite? Yeah. So you have Smite, Zealous Accusation, and Stunning Blow. And you'll get all this information with every character over the different skills as long as you highlight them. So like, let's say for example, Smite. If we go over the Bone Soldier, we know we have an 85% chance to hit, we know what our crit chance is, and we know how much damage we're doing. So we know that Reynald can do 7 to 13. So if we roll a 10, 11, 12, or 13, we kill this guy in one shot. If we roll 7, 8, or 9, obviously we don't. So you start considering that kind of stuff as you progress through the game. We have a, 60% plus chance to actually one-shot and kill this guy. If you have those kinds of opportunities in a combat, it's never a bad idea to do it. The quicker you eliminate the enemy, guys, the much easier your life becomes from round to round and as you progress into the game. So always keep that in mind. Like, we could do this Zealous Accusation because it hits both characters, right, guys? Unfortunately, it only does 3 to 7 damage. So we know for a fact there's no chance we can kill either of these guys in one shot. So why would we use it? Maybe somebody behind him is going to have a really good speed, right? And that's actually something we'll get into here in a second. Like, why is Reynold going second, right? Reynold has a speed of 1. Dismas has a speed of 7. And then if you look at, for example, the Plague Doctor, they have a 3 right now, even with their quirk, right? And then 2 on the Vestal. There's a D8 that is rolled before every combat round that your speed stat is added to, and that determines initiative. And it's the same thing with the enemies. The 2 Bone Soldiers, as you guys can see, have a speed of 2. The Bone Arbalist has a speed of 5. Now, they're going to go last regardless because we got a surprise round. But if it wasn't a surprise round, they would have all rolled a D8 as well, added that speed stat to it, and then that's how the game figures out where your initiative is. Unfortunately, there's no way to know exactly who's going to go first, second, third, fourth, or fifth. It's just one of those things that you got to roll with as you progress through the game. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to go with Smite, guys, and we're going to try and kill one of these Bone Soldiers right out the gate, because it just prevents us from possibly having a headache later on. Unfortunately, guys, it didn't happen. What are you going to do, right, guys? What are you going to do? So we have 2 different choices here. We could actually play Grenade to do damage, right? Or we could do something like a stun. Now, what we do know is that this guy is probably going to beat us in initiative next turn because he has that 5 speed. The better play for us currently is to just go ahead and throw a Plague Grenade on him, so we know that he'll take that 4 points of damage. And then even if he does beat us in initiative in the next round, we know that he's dead anyway, right? We're looking at 4 points of blight damage over 3 rounds. He's going to have that apply once as soon as it's their turn to go, and then he's going to have it apply again at the beginning of his action next turn. So we know he's dead. He's only going to have 1 action this entire combat to do any kind of damage, and that is really, really good. And this is the kind of shit you need to remember as you get through the game. These are the kind of things that I kind of think about second nature these days as I continue to play, because I have so many hours in the game. But as a new player, it's not a lot of shit that you consider. But if you can start getting into that groove very early on, it makes your playthrough of this game so much easier as time goes on. So this is what else we're going to do here, guys. What we're going to want to do now is maybe we can get a kill with the Vestal, right? This guy's weak, so we may as well just go for the throat, right? Let's get the kill. Let's eliminate one of the threats. Maybe get a stress heal for our trouble. Fucking A, boys, right? Fucking A. Everything's coming up pack, right, guys? Everything's coming up pack. Okay, and like I said, guys, even if he goes first, he's toast, right? So what we'll actually do here is we're going to start dumping damage on this Bone Soldier, because 1, Dismas doesn't have any stress to worry about anyway. Even if he gets the kill, it's kind of whatever. So let's actually get some damage on this kid. We know for a fact now, whoever hits this one, he's dead. As much as we might want the heal or the stress heal on the Vestal guys, we're actually going to take a second. We're going to heal up Dismas, right? Because more often than not, most of the enemy characters, especially the damage dealers, will focus position 1 and 2, so you're going to have to really worry about healing them. You do have to worry about certain characters or enemies actually focusing down these 2 back here as well, but that's shit that we actually cover later on in the series as well. So you want to make sure that they stay healthy, though, because clearly you don't want to lose any of your guys. So we are going to try and kill this thing, or no, we're not. What I said is we're going to actually heal Dismas, right? Because we want to make sure Dismas stays healthy. The other thing here, guys, is we know this curio right here is going to give us 1 a heal and a stress heal all at once if we use some of our holy water on it. So we don't really have to worry about the stress on our Vestal right now, because pretty soon a lot of it's going to be gone anyway. What we can also do now is possibly get a stress heal on the Plague Doctor, right? If the Plague Doctor hits and kills this guy, we might actually get that helping their situation, and it did. So again, guys, like, everything's coming up really well for us right now. We're doing pretty well in managing everything. Yeah, that game was a lot of fun, Red. That game was a lot of fun.
This is how a life is taken.
Now, again, the reason we didn't kill the light guys is because we do need it. Actually, you know what? I made a mistake there as well. We should have killed the light, because we only need enough light to get back down to this room. We have plenty of torches. Like I said, I'm worried about too much right now, so I'm making a lot of small mistakes early, and that's actually part of the game. But I messed up because we could have actually killed the light there to get better rewards, because we don't need light until this room. There are literally no battles left in the remainder of this dungeon. So I actually fucked up right there, for lack of a better way of putting it. Now, the one benefit of having the extra light currently is that we know that there's a trap in here and we didn't actually scout it out, and that's a bad thing, right? Because we know somebody is going to disarm it with their face here in just a second. That's something that we're very familiar with here in the old man's retirement home. We have that happen a lot these days. So when you do not see a trap, and of course it will be completely random in every other dungeon you go into, totally random who actually gets hit by it, okay? So we don't know who's going to get hit by it. Now, if we would have seen it, as we approach it, you're going to see a little tooltip under here where we saw it back here when we first came to it, because when you go back through a hallway you've already explored, there's always a chance for you to respawn a trap or respawn another battle. We did respawn a trap. It was that little purple icon that was back there, and we had Dismas disarm it. But unfortunately, we didn't find it on this playthrough, right? Like, there's always a chance that you're going to get a scout anytime you hit a room. You'll actually see that percentage at the beginning of the map, and I totally forgot to go over that as well. You have my sincerest apologies. If you don't see the trap, which, like I said, we won't know that going into any other dungeons, what's going to happen is somebody's going to step on it, it's going to proc, they could dodge it, or more than likely they're going to take damage from it and they're going to get extra stress, and that is completely at random. It is not something you can control, guys. But your dodge stat will affect it. So, for example, if, let's say, Dismas is the one who steps on it, he's going to have a better chance to avoid the damage because he has a higher dodge. Everybody else's dodge, 5, 0, 0. Obviously, he's going to be the best candidate for it, but we have no control over it. And here it is. Of course it hit the Vestal, because it has to hit the healer. So you're definitely hoping as you get through more weeks, guys, that you do get more healers as well, because even though stress is the big killer, healing is still very important, guys. Like, you still want to make sure that you can keep people healthy. So again, we should have killed the torch way back here after that battle. Unfortunately, I forgot to. Thank God Reynald didn't proc immediately. But the other bright side here, guys, is that we actually still got a fair amount of treasure out of this one. So we have an abundance of food, right, guys? We have 12 food just in case we have a hunger check. Hunger checks are another thing in this game that are completely random, and you always want to make sure you have enough food. If you don't have enough food and you get a hunger check, you make your characters go hungry, and they not only take physical damage, but that's another avenue for the game to deal stress to you. Stress damage, the white bar underneath here. What we can do with this extra food, since we have plenty, right? We know that there might be a hunger check in here. If there is a hunger check in here, we know that the next hallway will not have a hunger check. That's a really important piece of information to know throughout the entire game as well. We can actually just go ahead and eat this. You can actually eat food to get healing, right? So we may as well get everybody healthy. Otherwise, we're just going to toss it anyway because we don't have any room to pick it up. So go ahead and eat it. Get everybody topped off. We still have enough food to get through the remainder of the dungeon. Now, let's say we did get a hunger check in here, right? We're talking about hunger checks. If we get a hunger check in this hallway, we know that if we go this way, there will not be any hunger check. We know if we come back this way, there won't be a hunger check in here because you can only do it every other time. The one thing that can fuck that up is if we went here and then we stuck our nose out here and then we decided, oh, well, we want to backtrack back to here. By going out of the room and entering this hallway, even if you immediately turn around and decide to come back, there could actually be another hunger check in this hallway. I'm pretty sure we actually cover that in one of the later videos, guys, but I want to go over it now just so people have a small working understanding of it. So here you go, guys. There's that hunger check we were talking about. We now know, like, for example, if this wasn't a set dungeon, guys, and there was a fight in here and we beat the fight, and we wanted to take all the treasure, we could take all the treasure and we could actually dump this food if we knew that the only other thing we were going to do was walk down this hallway to get to this room. Because, like I said, there was a hunger check in that hallway. We now know that there is none in this room. So, like, the food right now is completely what the hell ever. Like, there's really no reason to hold on to it. We will, just because if we don't get anything, like, good treasure-wise in this room, and then we can take it back to resell it, right? So that's the other thing as well. Everything in your inventory will sell for something, even if it's provisions, right? So if for some strange reason we got no treasure out of this fight, and there was no reason for us to dump this, we wouldn't just want to, like, get rid of it because it's still worth something as we go back. Kinder asks if you can fight a collector, which is a mini-boss in this game, in this fight, by having too much inventory. There's no chance for you to actually proc the collector in this area. Well, maybe you can. Maybe you can get it on a return trip. You know, I don't know, Kidder. That's actually a good question. As long as you address the mistakes, we can learn through either words or your face taking a trap, right, David? Okay, guys, so again, this is where we're going to talk one more time about enemy priority. We know that these two enemies are the bigger threats. This guy stresses out. This guy back here, the Bone Arbalist, he can actually hit you for a lot of damage and has a really good chance to crit. So what we're going to try and do is kill them very, very quickly, right? Bright side, we got a surprise round. So we're sitting very, very pretty right now. We're going to be able to do a lot of damage to these guys before they even go. So we're going to... Unfortunately, that happened. Unfortunately, we whiffed. So we'll still try to one-shot this guy with Reynold because we know we can do it. That didn't still happen. Our other choice now, we could stun them, guys, but their speed stat is so high that they will probably beat us anyway, so we may as well just go ahead and start piling on damage now. Because if, for example, our Vestal here can hit this guy, we may actually still be able to kill him in a round, because the Vestal can do 3, 4, 5, or 6 damage, right? We know that there's 4 Blight on here. All we need to do is 5 or 6 damage, and this guy is dead, but we have to hit him. And he has a very high dodge stat. You can see our chance to hit is very low, relatively speaking, right? 73%. So, rock and roll. The guy who's going to deal all the stress is already eliminated, guys. Good fucking work.
On its own.
Is there any way to determine a surprise or surprised fight? There is a baseline percentage, Jedbeck. That's a very good question. There's a baseline percentage in the game that dictates whether or not you are going to surprise something or whether or not they're going to surprise you. Now, that surprise is also affected by your light. It's also affected by whether or not you've scouted a hallway. So if you scout a hallway and you see an enemy combat coming up denoted by a red X, like if we're on the map, guys, we would see a red X in this hallway. The enemies actually cannot surprise you if you've scouted them out. If you haven't scouted them out, they can surprise you. And that's one of the bad things. Outside of that, I believe there are no... Or it still works the same on room battles as well. If you've scouted a room battle, they cannot surprise you. But if you haven't scouted it, they can as you walk in. Ah, that's a very good point, Shadow. Shadow Kagami actually brings up the chance that there are items in the game that you can affect surprise chance. So you have a bonus to surprise an enemy that will cap out at 65%. You can't get higher than that. You can't have a 100% chance to surprise. Boy, would that be broken. Boy, would that be broken. Okay, so where do we want to go from here, guys? I guess we're just going to try and stack more damage on him, right? We know for a fact if we get one more, perfect. So we have 2 different ways we can go about this, guys. We could go with Grape Shot Blast and do damage to everything, potentially kill him, and then get him to a health value that could kill him. The downside to doing this is that our chance to hit is very low. We're looking at 75, 75, and 70. That is not good. So we may actually just go for the higher percentage play, right? 80% to just do damage. As long as we do damage, he's dead. Usually want to do shit like that, guys. Like, you can take a gamble, but sometimes those gambles will absolutely positively come back to haunt you. The other thing we could do, and I wasn't even thinking about this until right now, is that Pistol Shot has a base accuracy at this level of 85. Tracking Shot at this level has a base accuracy of 95. Now, we can only use Tracking Shot one time in a battle, right? Because it gives us a full battle buff of plus 12 damage, plus 6 accuracy, and plus 4 crit. I am okay with doing this for a couple of reasons. 1, we have a 90% chance to hit this fucker. 2, it doesn't matter if we only do 2 or 3 points of damage because he's going to die from the Blight anyway as long as we hit. 3, we're going to get more damage against these guys because there's no way we're ending the battle in this round anyway. So let's go with the high percentage. Always go with something that's going to hit if you know that something else is going to take care of it anyway. Not only that, like I said, we're getting a combat long buff by doing that, which is also very, very beneficial, right? Hey, what's up, Blades of the Moon? Good to see ya. This is where we probably just go for the kill, right? This guy is really, really low. Let's just go ahead and go for the kill on the Vestal, mostly because we could get the stress heal, and that's really what we want. Unfortunately, we didn't get it. What we can do here is also, I guess we just kill it now. There's no way we're gonna kill the Bone Defender. It has too much life, guys. So there was a chance we could have gotten another stress heal there on Reynold. It just didn't work out in our favor. There is a very good chance, though, this guy dies this round. So what we're gonna have to do here in a second is definitely kill the Torch. Here's one thing. We could kill the Torch right now, just in case the Plague Doctor crits and kills this guy. We know if the Plague Doctor hits and just does regular damage, there's no way to kill it because we're only doing 4 to 7, and he has 8 hit points. Now, if we did crit, we would actually have a little bit of extra time to kill the torch before the loot table rolled, and that's something you can absolutely use to your benefit as well, because when you crit something and kill it, you always get a stress heal, right? As the stress heal animation is going off, the loot table still hasn't been rolled, so you can very quickly go up to the torch and kill it before the stress roll has rolled to actually generate that better loot table. So even if we crit and kill this guy, we'll be able to immediately go up here and kill the torchlight and still get the better loot roll. And that's something that you do want to keep in mind sometimes, because sometimes you just crit. And to keep in mind, guys, when you crit in this game, crits are always max damage plus 50%. So what you're looking at with a crit on the Plague Doctor is 7 points of damage plus 50% rounded up. So you're looking at 11 points of damage. But unfortunately, the Plague Doctor missed, so it doesn't really matter. Of course it doesn't. We're actually going to go for a stun here. And the reason we're going to go for the stun is because we were kind of hoping that he wouldn't get a chance to go. Yeah, here we are. And now if Reynold hits, guys, we're doing 6 to 11. It is a very, very good chance that we kill this guy if we hit. So we're definitely killing the torch now.
Arrows may indeed stalk these shadows.
Good thing we did, right? And then this is why we did it, because we just got fucking paid, right? We just got paid. Now, the debuff charm is never something we're going to use, but we will absolutely positively take it home with us because it's worth money, right? It's absolutely worth money. So if you ever have empty slots, guys, make fucking sure you put them on your characters, especially if you're at the end of a dungeon. Especially if you're at the end of a dungeon, you don't have to worry about the -2 to dodge at all, because the dodge, we clearly aren't going to fight anything else, so who gives a shit? So what we'll do now is we start making the decision of what we get rid of to make room for everything else that has more value. This is where you look at, we have 1 anti-venom worth 15 gold. We have 2 holy water worth 15, so this is actually a stack of 30, right? What you do is you go back and start looking at what the value of everything is in your inventory and decide from there whether or not you want to get rid of it. Right now, the weakest link is the anti-venom, right? It's only worth 15. We have a stack of 1,350 gold, or rather 675 once we stack those properly, so that definitely goes. We definitely want the busts. Zinram, welcome in, by the way. Thank you for the host, you beautiful son of a bitch. I appreciate it. I'm also going to change the doggo cam really quick because I'm definitely slacking on that. There's Miss Brienne. Oh, nope, there's Torm. There's Torm, guys. Go ahead and give Torm. What we'll actually do here is we're going to get rid of the torch, right? The torch is only worth 5 gold. We would much rather have these busts. That's what we play right now. Now, this might change a little bit once we open this chest, right? Once we open this chest, we're going to have to start making some more decisions.
A handsome reward.
Medicinal herbs we don't need.
Well performed.
The crest stack here. The bust stack here. We definitely want the deeds, right? What do we get rid of? What do we get rid of right now? 20 gold? 25 gold? 30 gold, right? He's got to go, right? Because we're reselling the shovel for 25. The stack of food is actually worth 40, right? Because each bit of gold is worth 5. So we have 8 food worth 5 gold each. That's 40. Still worth more than a 20 gold key. And then obviously the holy waters are worth 30. So this is, like I said, guys, as you go through the game, especially early, min-maxing everything in terms of treasure like this is absolutely what you guys want to do. So this is where we hope that we get some decent positive quirks and we don't get really bad negative quirks, right, guys? Hopefully with our keeping the stress down and maximizing in that area, we don't have to worry about, wow. Everybody got something. Reynold coming out with balanced, not really that good on the Crusader, but that's fine. At least it's a positive quirk. Holy fucking shit, boys! Like we were saying, we're trying to keep our torch over 75 light the entire time.
Get riggedy wrecked, son!
One of the biggest damage dealers in the game is the bounty, or the highwayman, guys. And the fact that he will do 10% extra damage whenever we're over 75 light is fucking amazing. Now, unfortunately, you're not going to see that in training video 2 because it will be a completely different set of characters. But very, very strong, guys. Very strong quirk, especially if you're doing a full light run. So, the Plague Doctor got anemic, which isn't great because bleed is bad, right? Like, anytime something hits you with a bleed attack, you not only take the immediate damage, but then you have to worry about the bleed. As far as it being on the Plague Doctor, it's probably the best case scenario. The Plague Doctor has Battlefield Medicine. We were talking about that heal before we came in here. When you use Battlefield Medicine on another character, it can actually cure their Bleed and Blight and heal them for HP, right, guys? The other thing is, let's say the character we're healing is bled and damaged, but let's say that the Plague Doctor is also bleeding at the time, especially this Plague Doctor, because they're anemic and they're going to be prone to bleeding. Battlefield Medicine will cure that character of bleeding and will also cure the Plague Doctor, which is very, very strong, right? So if you have multiple people who are also either bled or blight and the Plague Doctor will heal themselves and that other person so long as you target them. So that's actually not terrible. And then, unfortunately, the Vestal got Ruins Phobe, so they're going to take a little extra stress in the Ruins. Not really a completely debilitating negative quirk, by the way, guys. So not really a huge deal. Unerring is also something that's kind of cool on the Vestal because Judgment is a ranged attack and her primary vehicle of doing damage when you have her in position 4 or 3. So that's not an altogether terrible quirk. It's probably not one that's worth locking in later at the Sanitarium. We were talking about removing Kleptomania or Compulsive or any of those forced interaction quirks. Now, the other thing you do in the Sanitarium is potentially lock quirks in, like Warrior of Light or like Unerring. So Warrior of Light, absolutely a lock-in, right? Because it's a damage-dealing class, and that's all they fucking do. So this is an amazing quirk. Unerring on a non-necessarily primary damage-dealing class is cool, and it's a nice bonus, but not necessarily something good like, say, Hippocratic, which is a skill that will increase their healing potential. So now's where we return to town, and this is where we're going to kind of fix our mess up, and this is something that I'll need to go back and address.
In truth, I cannot tell how much time has passed since I sent that letter.
Okay, can you... Wayne, I love you, but can you be quiet? Here's the deal, guys. After you get through the first week, and you get into week 2, your first 2 stress facilities open up, right? Like, if everybody came out of here really stressed, we could actually stick them in here, de-stress them. Each one of these does a little bit more stress than the other. Like, the Cloister is the lowest, and the Transept and the Penance Hall. Each one of these would de-stress this one more than this, and then this one more than both of them. And it's the same way in the Tavern. Now, the downside of the Tavern, if you use it as a stress reduction facility, and this is something we're going to try to avoid this entire playthrough, guys, is that when somebody goes in here, you have a chance to lose money or lose trinkets, or they have a higher chance of actually disappearing for a week. So there's definitely some bad stuff with using these. So that's another reason for you to actually keep your stress level down as much as you can. Now, here is the mistake that I made in the first week. Wow. No shit, huh? 2. Wow. 2 Vestals after the weeks. Crystal Heroes, what mean is that... Okay, so Rob Wolf, the Crystal Heroes don't actually pop up until way later in the game, and we actually do cover that way later in the training series. Something worth noting that Ultimate Ninja Batman brought up, guys, is we were talking about the stress reduction facilities being the Abbey and the Bar. There are characters that can come with negative quirks, like God-fearing, that will not allow them to use any other one, or will only allow them to use specific ones. So Reynald with God-fearing, it means that he is only going to pray. And then you have people who come with Nymphomania, and they're only going to use the brothel as a way to distress. Now, there are other ones that will actually not allow you to do other stuff as well. There's a whole list of them. But I can't remember. Known cheat. Dismas can't gamble while he's in town because he's a cheater, right, guys? He can use any other stress reduction facility but gambling, right? Because he's a fucking cheater. They don't want him sitting at the game. So here we are, guys. So right now, Dismas looks really good. He's fast. He has a hard time being stunned, and he does extra damage. Pretty fucking cool. Now, downside is he also got Skilled Gambler, which is a complete, like, whatever, because he's not allowed to gamble. Maybe that's why he's a skilled gambler, guys, because he's a goddamn cheat.